So the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, the natural gas pipeline that carried, well, natural gas from East to Western Europe, was the single most profound act of environmental terrorism in history. It released more deadly CO2 into the atmosphere. It was also an attack on our NATO allies. Our NATO allies are the beneficiaries of the natural gas pipeline. Germany, which is the core of European NATO, suffered. So the Biden administration was talking about how much it loves NATO, attacked NATO, and they did it. They promised to carry it out. They haven't really denied that they did it. So during an interview with Donald Trump yesterday, we thought we'd ask, who does he think did it? We previewed the answer last night. Here's the full exchange. Who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline?
I don't want to get our country in trouble, so I won't answer it. But I can tell you who it wasn't, was Russia. How about when they blamed Russia? You know, they said Russia blew up their own pipeline. You got a kick out of that one, too. It wasn't Russia. So I won't answer the question only because I don't want to get our country any deeper than they already are. But it sort of all starts. We have, you know, we have the most incredible equipment. I rebuilt our whole military. We have things that are, you can do anything. We're equipped to do anything. But I refuse to say it because I want our country to be pristine. But it was, you know, in many ways, blowing it up was very bad because it really created a lot of problems for Europe in terms of the cost of energy.
Oh, yeah.
But they shouldn't have ever been. I had that pipeline stopped, Nord Stream 2, I had it stopped, totally stopped. When Biden came in, he approved it, and they immediately started the finishing action. I had Nord Stream because I said, for Germany and Europe to get their energy from Russia, that was when I said, I sent Angela Merkel the flag. I sent her the white flag of surrender. She said, but why do you do that? I said, you've been fighting Russia for many years. If you ever have to fight with Russia and they control energy, you might as well just take the white flag of surrender. And that's what I did. So that was blown up and very dangerous to do it. But I think most people know who did it.
So once we start blowing up other people's critical infrastructure, is there a concern ours could get blown up in return?
Well, I think it's much more than infrastructure you're talking about. Look, we could end up in World War III over this whole thing. Forget about pipeline. We are closer. I believe it's the most dangerous period of time in history. Number one, because we have people on top that are incompetent. That's number one. And again, China's fine if you know how to deal. Russia, if you know how to deal. Russia wasn't going into Ukraine with me. China wasn't going into Taiwan with me. I mean, now all you see is, you know, China with ships all over the place and sending airplanes and bombers. That wasn't happening with me. He knew you can't do it. And also, Russia knew you can't do it. They would have never done it. The most dangerous period of time because of weaponry, because of nuclear, because of weaponry, most dangerous period of time in the history of our country and in the history of the world right now. And we have an incompetent person at the top.
Well, we're learning tonight from a leak from the Department of Justice to the Washington Post that the special counsel investigating Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, is now looking into whether he committed wire fraud. Okay, so as his numbers go up, the number of investigations multiply. This one appears to be related to Trump's fundraising efforts between the 2020 election and January 6th. Of course, this is an effort to sideline the frontrunner in the Republican Party while they figure out what to do with Joe Biden. Meanwhile, Trump is talking in a way that nobody else is about the most serious threat to this country, which is nuclear war, a nuclear war that the Biden administration seems intent on sparking through recklessness and truly crazy behavior. And then, of course, the second greatest threat to the United States, the other thing you never hear about as we yammer on about trans rights, is the decline of the U.S. dollar. We interviewed Donald Trump yesterday in Florida, and that came up. Here's part of the conversation.
Iran gets together with Saudi Arabia through China. And China's taken over. And China, you know, I heard a couple of people say, well, the dollar will never lose the dollar standard. Are they kidding? China wants to change the standard, the currency standard. And if that happens, that's like losing a world war. We'll be a second-tier country. We'll literally be a second-tier country if that happens. Now you're losing Brazil. You're losing Colombia, South America. You're losing Iran. You've lost it. You've lost Russia. And if you haven't lost them yet, you're going to lose them. China's on the yuan, so China's gone. Then you see France going over. No, what's going on? We're losing. If we lose our currency, that's the equivalent of losing a world war. Our currency is what makes us powerful and strong. And this was unthinkable during the Trump administration. And if I saw Macron do that, I would have called him. I would have said, you know what? No more wine into the United States. No more champagne into the... And I had that with him. You know, I had Steve Mnuchin, a good guy, was unable to make a deal with France. France is very difficult, I will tell you.
Yeah.
They're all difficult because every country rips us off. But France is, in particular, very difficult. And you probably heard where they want to charge American companies substantial tax to do business in France. So I had Mnuchin working on it and other people working. They were unable to do it. They called me back. This for a couple of months. They could not do it. I said, let me have Macron get him on the phone. I said, listen, I understand you're going to tax American companies for doing business in France. Here's the story. On Monday morning, if you don't drop this, on Monday morning was Friday, I'm going to put a 100% tariff on every bottle of champagne and every bottle of wine that comes into the United States of America. He says, no, 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 that's not fair. I said, of course it's fair. You're charging American companies for going to France and doing business in France, a very big tax. So all of your wine, very good wine, but I think we make wine that's just as good. All of your wine and all of your champagne that comes in, I'm putting a 100% tax on. That's it. So good luck. Monday morning at 9 o'clock. That was it. I get a call back 15 minutes later. We've decided we're not going to charge American companies. But you know what happened? Once I left, now they're charging them.
So the takeaway from the interview we did with Trump yesterday, it lasted over an hour, was whatever you think of his answers, the conversation was about real topics. It was not about global warming or systemic racism or trans rights. It was about nuclear war, the US dollar and its strength against other currencies, our trade balance, the things that actually define a country. They told you he was crazy for all these years, but why is he the only one talking about these things?